In this lesson, we're going to be learning how to make the lower half of this controller with a surface, namely a boundary surface, and we're going to be using Style Splines to help us do that. So the first thing we need to do is click the Style Spline button. We're going to open a sketch on the right plane, and we're just going to click some points. And if you haven't used the Style Spline before, you can see that you can drag these points around and it moves the spline in a more controlled manner than a normal spline. So what we want to do is click this point, hold shift, click the line, and pierce. So there's no endpoints currently on our projected curve, so we have to pierce this line to the actual curve itself. And we can also move these points around a little bit and get the curve to rest right on this point here. So that controls how deep it's going. One last thing we can do is we can add some dimensions here to control the angle. So if we want to add a 3 degree draft, we can do that very easily. And for this one, we can do the same. Let's increase the draft a little bit. Let's make this 10 degrees. You can still see it's not fully defined yet, and you can still move these points around. So however it looks good to you, looks pretty good. You can just leave it as is for now. So in order to create this boundary surface, we're going to need one more profile. We're going to also use these edges as our guide curves. So we need to create a plane, you can see, between this point and this point. We can do that by creating a line that's going to help drive the direction of the plane. So on the right plane, let's draw this line, like so. Doesn't really matter where it is. Right click, select midpoint. If it doesn't want to pierce it, you may have to just make it coincident like that. We can choose another center line, and once it's connected this way, we can actually make these perpendicular. As you can see, it's got that relation on it. And if we want these to be tangent, all we have to do is click the line and the curve, select tangent, and now we have a perfectly perpendicular line in which to create our plane. So let's exit the sketch. Go to Insert, Reference Geometry, Plane. Choose the line. So top plane is going to orient it that way since it's set to coincident. So now this is set to perpendicular. You can see our plane's going this way. So this is the plane we want. I can drag this over, make it a little easier to see. And now we can actually start to make our second style spline on this plane. So we can just make a few points here, like we did last time. And in this situation, we may have to pierce the points again, since there's really no points on this line to really click. SOLIDWORKS doesn't really know where it is in space. So again, we can pull these around and make a shape we think looks comfortable in the hand. And if we really want to throw a dimension on here, we can. But for now, I'm just going to leave it as is. You also want to make sure that these lines are not in like this. They need to be out a little bit to have draft. That'll also help the surface curl around. Let's hide this plane. Okay, good. Now we have both of our profiles. Now we just need to make these lines our guide curves. So we're going to use a 3D sketch in order to do that. You'll notice when I click this or hover my mouse here, there's segments. So we need to make this one continuous sketch. So let's choose 3D sketch. I'm going to hold shift while selecting these lines and convert them. You can see it converts the entire thing, but we can just delete these. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side here. So let's delete these again. This is just one way to do it. There's many other ways, but I find this is the fastest. Okay, so now that we have our guide curves and our profiles, we can now make our boundary surface. So for direction 1, let's choose this curve, this curve. For direction 2, we'll choose our first 3D sketch and our second 3D sketch right out of the tree. You can see it looks pretty good. The curvature combs actually look very nice. If you see any large spikes coming up in any direction, that means that there's something going on with your surface. It's probably twisted or there's a tear or a pinch somewhere. So these look actually really good. Very nice. So you can see how smooth the surface is. If you want to double check the curvature, you can choose evaluate, turn the zebra stripes on. You can see that they're not really converging anywhere, which is good. You can also look at the curvature. It's pretty clean. And that's it. So for the second half of this tutorial, we're going to actually create a lofted surface in this area.